Here are today's top stories. House leaders urge President Duterte to certify the Bangsamoro Basic Law as urgent for passage. The Department of Education reactivates Oplan Balik Eskwela as classes start on June 4. Oil companies increase prices of fuel products by over 1 peso per liter. And the National Museum of Natural History rises from a 90-year-old heritage building to showcase the country's rich biodiversity. Good day, I'm Pia Rosas Morato. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Lawmakers are set to ask President Rodrigo Duterte to certify the Bangsamoro Basic Law as urgent to speed up its passage. More on this from Benj Bondoc.
The leadership of the House of Representatives will request President Rodrigo Duterte to certify as urgent the passage of the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law. Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez and Majority Leader Rodolfo Fariñas made a statement after emerging from an all-member caucus to discuss issues on contentious provisions of the proposed BBL. Alvarez vowed to meet the lower chamber's deadline to approve the bill before Congress adjourns on May 31. Fariñas, for his part, said the urgent certification would ensure the bill's swift passage. Under the rules, the House can only vote a measure on third reading after its members receive copies of the bill at least 3 days prior to voting. But with the President's certification, the House can now vote on third reading immediately after the second reading. Alvarez said he, along with other House leaders, would meet with the Bangsamoro Transition Commission on Tuesday to discuss the issues that were raised during the caucus. The House Committees on Muslim Affairs, Local Government, and the Special Committee on Peace, Unity, and Reconciliation approved the committee report on House Bill 6475, or the BBL. The bill authored by Alvarez provides for the BBL and seeks the abolition of the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao. It aims to establish a political entity, provide for its basic structure of government in recognition of the justness and legitimacy of the cause of the Bangsamoro people and their aspiration to chart their political future through a democratic process. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondoc.
House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez on Monday said the granting of the quo warranto petition to remove Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno is not an impeachable offense. Alvarez said the 8 Supreme Court justices who voted to grant the petition acted within their powers as provided for by the Constitution. He said the magistrates only followed the principle of separation of powers between the legislature and judiciary. He made the comment in reaction to the opposition's planned filing of impeachment cases against the 8 SC justices. Akbayan Party List Representative Tom Villarin said Sereno's ouster through a quo warranto usurps the powers of Congress, noting that the top magistrate can only be removed through an impeachment. But Alvarez reiterated that the quo warranto case and the impeachment proceeding are two different courses of action to oust Sereno. He added that while Congress has exclusive jurisdiction to impeach officials as provided for in the Constitution, it does not mean that impeachment is the only method to remove them. The Department of Education has staffed its partner agencies as it prepares for the opening of classes on June 4. More on this from Maricor Zapata.
The Department of Education has reactivated its national Oplan Balik Eskwela in preparation for the start of classes on June 4. Education Secretary Leonor Briones says DepEd is working with its partner agencies to ensure the delivery of quality basic education nationwide. Philippine National Police Public Safety Division Chief, Senior Superintendent Rudolph Dimas says over 5,000 police personnel and about 28,000 marshals will be deployed to provide security and traffic safety. Through the so-called Oplan Bisita Eskwela, Dimas says the police establishes partnership with the academe, students, the youth sector, and the community in keeping illegal drugs and bullies at bay. Department of Trade and Industry Director Lilian Salonga says prices of school supplies are being monitored closely. The Health Department, according to its representative Belinda Evangelista, will focus on the implementation of sanitation, proper waste segregation, proper hand washing, availability of potable water, and information dissemination on emergencies and disasters. Meanwhile, Pag-asa has released a 6-month forecast on the weather that might affect the conduct of classes this coming school year. State Weather Bureau Chief Esperanza Cayanan says warm weather in the morning, thunderstorms, and flash floods can be expected in the months of May and June. Feeding programs for 2 to 4-year-old children have also been started, says Department of Social Welfare and Development Director Rosalie Dagulo. Meanwhile, the Department of Interior and Local Government is encouraging the passing of local ordinances to regulate the going of students to malls and internet cafes, especially during school hours. At the same time, the Metro Manila Development Authority assures to keep the flow of traffic smooth and the sidewalks in front of schools free from obstructions. The Department of Energy assures sufficient power supply in time for the opening of classes as well. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Maricor Zapata.
Cesar Montano on Monday formally resigned as the Chief Operating Officer of the Tourism Promotions Board amid allegations of corruption. Tourism Chief Bernadette Romulo Puyat confirmed that she received Montano's courtesy resignation. Under the Tourism Act of 2009, the Tourism Congress is set to nominate a new COO in June. Whether he resigns or not, Romulo Puyat earlier said Montano knows he is on holdover capacity and that the TPP would elect a new COO. Romulo Puyat added that the Commission on Audit will get to the bottom of the issues surrounding Montano. The resignation came after Montano met Romulo Puyat in a private meeting Wednesday night. Following the meeting, Romulo Puyat stopped all lined-up events and projects of the TPB for 2018 and 2019, including the Buhay Karinderya Redefined, pending a review. It was found out that 320 million peso Buhay Karinderya Redefined did not undergo a proper bidding but through sponsorship. A civil society group urged Supreme Court spokesperson Theodore Te to resign after he expressed dissent to the High Court's ruling on the quo warranto petition against ousted Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno. Te posted on his Twitter account the words, "I dissent" last May 11, the day the High Court voted to oust Sereno. Citizens Crime Watch head lawyer Ferdinand Topacio said Te's post was disrespectful to the institution. He said that Te must resign from his official function as a court official before expressing his own opinion on any High Court action or decision. Topacio claimed that Te should speak for the SC and not for Sereno. Te, who did not explicitly state whether his post was related to the SC decision, refused to comment on Topacio's statement. Te has been speaking on behalf of the SC on decisions and other official announcements. Still to come, oil companies increase prices of fuel products by over 1 peso per liter. The Armed Forces of the Philippines vows to look into complaints of abuses under martial law in Mindanao. These and more when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Mariing sinabi ni Marawi City Mayor Mahul Gandamra sa kanyang talumpati na lahat ng propriedad na matatamaan ng rekonstruksyon sa main affected area ay dadaan sa masinsinang konsultasyon at bibigyan ng karampatang kompensasyon. Sinabi din ni Mayor Gandamra,
that private lands which will be affected by reconstruction and development shall only post to upon the agreement or consent of the private owners and upon payment of just compensation.
Prinisinta naman ni TFBM Field Manager Asec Felix Castro Jr. ang mga objectives ng forum na ito, na highlighted ang mga lupaing pagmamayari ng mga IDP sa MAA. Kanya namang inilahad na lahat ng itatayo ng TFBM ay sa public land lamang, hindi gagalawin ang pribadong lupa. Ito rin ang binigyang empasiya ni TFBM Chairman Secretary Eduardo Del Rosario na hindi gagalawin ang mga pribadong lupa maging ang mga moske at masjid. Dumalo din si Philippine Economic Zone Authority Director General Charito Plaza sa nasabing okasyon at ibinahagi ang kanilang planong kontribusyon para sa Marawi.
Kami naman ang PESA, pinapapunta kami ng presidente dito para i-identify namin yung potential economic zone. Dahil dito sa mga economic zone, dito papasok ang mga investor. So, kami po ang mag-create ng mga magdadala, mag-spread ng investor at saka jobs.
Sumang-ayon naman ang mga representante ng iba't ibang stakeholder at manumpang susuporta sa TFBM. Sa ika-10 ng Mayo magtatapos ang kambisita at tuluyan ng sasarhan ang MAA para sa paghahanda ng clearing operations ayon kay Del Rosario. Para sa Bayan, Sweet Lukman, Philippine Information Agency.
Oil companies implemented a significant price increase this morning. Prices of unleaded gasoline increased by 1 peso and 60 centavos per liter, diesel by 1 peso and 15 centavos, and kerosene by 1 peso. The substantial price adjustment took effect starting 12 midnight. Last May 15, the price of unleaded gasoline also went up by 1 peso and 10 centavos per liter, diesel by 1 to 20, and kerosene by 95 centavos per liter. Prior to this, upward or downward price movements were often much less than 1 peso per liter. Spokesman for local oil firms simply attributed the oil price hike to upward movements in the world crude prices. The Department of Energy said earlier this month that it will be pressing oil companies for a more detailed explanation regarding adjustments in local pump prices. The government needs to raise about 53.4 billion pesos for the rehabilitation and reconstruction of Marawi City. More on this from Miguel Hill.
The government is confident about securing funding to implement the rehabilitation and reconstruction of war-torn Marawi City and other devastated areas nearby, which reportedly requires a budget of 53.42 billion pesos over the next 5 years. Adoracion Navarro, Undersecretary for Regional Development of the National Economic and Development Authority, said some 26.16 billion pesos is needed for this year and 27.25 billion from 2019 to 2022. Navarro, however, explained that these are only estimated figures for the Bangon Marawi Comprehensive Rehabilitation and Recovery Program. For 2018, Navarro said 10 billion pesos will come from the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Fund and a provisional 5 billion pesos under the unprogrammed appropriations in this year's General Appropriations Act. Official development assistance partners Japan pledged 970 million pesos while China earmarked 1.23 billion pesos. Australia has an ongoing humanitarian and recovery assistance project worth 24 million Australian dollars, while there is an underdetermined amount of technical support from the World Bank. Navarro said other fund sources for programs, projects, and activities are national government agencies and autonomous region and Muslim Mindanao budgets in the annual GAA and internal revenue allotments of local government units. Navarro said PPAs for physical infrastructure sector include rehabilitation and reconstruction of transportation infrastructure and utilities, social infrastructure, livelihood and tourism support facilities, and government facilities. Other key PPAs are housing settlement, livelihood and business development, social services, land resource management, and local governance and peace building. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Miguel Hill.
The Regional Maritime Unit of PNP Region 11 says it is prepared for Brigada Eskwela and Oplan Balik Eskwela in Davao Region. In Davao City, the 1,002nd Maritime Police Station is set to augment security schools within their area of responsibility. Police Senior Inspector John Alier says, despite focusing on the security of students, teachers, and parents, they are also assisting in the repair and maintenance of schools. Alier appeals to parents and students to safeguard their belongings at all times and never speak with strangers. The Department of Education announced that Brigada Eskwela will be held from May 28 to June 2, while classes are set to start on June 4. The AFP assures it is open to complaints by Mindanaoans on the implementation of martial law in the region. AFP spokesman Colonel Edgar Arevalo welcomes residents who want to report abuses allegedly done by the military while martial law is in place. He says they may report these abuses to the nearest Army headquarters, who will then investigate their accusations. He adds that the military is ready to face charges in court if found responsible. Arevalo says the military will not condone any abuse done by its soldiers. The AFP reacted to reports from a forum of the University of the Philippines where members of indigenous peoples claim they were maltreated by government troops for being suspected as rebels. The military has started its pursuit of the remaining leader of the Maute group that terrorized Marawi City. Colonel Romeo Browner, Deputy Commander of Joint Task Force Ranao, identified the alleged leader as Owaida Benito Marohamsar, also known as Huam or Abu Dar. Abu Dar, who has a bounty of 3 million pesos, is the last living leader who was among those who plotted the attack on Marawi. He was supposed to recruit reinforcements in the last days of the Marawi siege. Browner says Abu Dar is actively recruiting new members, to which he would offer 70,000 pesos. Up next, Malacanang says the Mutual Defense Treaty with the U.S. cannot be used to settle the territorial dispute with China. The National Museum of Natural History rises from a 90-year-old heritage building to showcase the country's rich biodiversity. These and more when the PNA Newsroom returns.
Today's gathering stems from the President's approval of establishing a national brand for the Philippines, which the Presidential Communications Operations Office had presented to him. I am pleased to be here this day with our partners for change, the experts on marketing, sales, and ideation, who will share their insights on how we can improve this branding effort.
Sanay tayo sa hirap, kahit anong hirap, kakayanin natin. But are we gonna be like this? Forever for the rest of our lives?
You're allowed your opinion, but let's please set aside these differences. Let's please come together for the sake of the country.
Malacanang clarifies that the Mutual Defense Treaty between the Philippines and the U.S. cannot be used to settle the country's territorial dispute with China. The statement comes following news of continued activity in the South China Sea, including the recent deployment of bomber planes. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says the treaty is invoked only during an actual attack on the Philippines and its territories, and not in response to a military buildup similar to what is happening in the disputed areas. Roque adds that the U.S. government already made its position clear that it will not interfere in the country's territorial dispute with China. Meanwhile, Roque says the issue on China's movement should be addressed by diplomatic means, including the ASEAN declaration in the recent Singapore summit. The declaration calls for the non-militarization of South China Sea. The matter should also be discussed in the bilateral consultative mechanism between China and the Philippines. The government of Australia has expressed its support for President Duterte's campaign against corruption. Matt Kimberley, Australian Embassy's deputy head of mission to the Philippines, said his country strongly supports President Duterte's campaign as this government shows a strong push for reform that can bring a better future for the Philippines. Duterte has fired several members of his cabinet for their alleged involvement in irregularities. Last week, Duterte asked Justice Assistant Secretary Muselman Macarambon Sr. and Public Works Assistant Secretary Tingagun Umpa to resign or be fired for their alleged involvement in corrupt acts. Kimberley also assured that the relationship of the Philippines and Australia remains strong despite the issue involving the deportation order against Australian nun Patricia Fox. Last month, the Bureau of Immigration forfeited Fox's visa following the nun's supposed involvement in local political activities. Rain or shine won a heated matchup with Global Port on Sunday night in the PBA Commissioner's Cup at the Smart Araneta Coliseum in Quezon City. The Elasto Painters took a 96-90 victory over the Batang Pier in a match that got chippy down the stretch. Chris Chu was hit by an elbow from Malcolm White while going for a rebound with a little under 9 minutes left, and his slip was busted with much blood spilled on the floor. Moments later, Kelly Nabong shoved Maverick Ahanmisi, who apparently went hard on pushing Sean Anthony away from a held ball situation with Bo Belga. Nabong and Ahanmisi were sent off from the game with multiple technical fouls committed. White then had a spat with Raymond Amazan when the latter charged through the rebounding sequence and hit the former with his elbow. Reggie Johnson finished with 18 points, 17 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals for Rain or Shine, which will enter the All-Star break as the #1 team in the standings at 5 wins and 1 loss. In this modern era, people often flock to malls, restaurants, or coffee shops for enjoyment. But for those who are in for an exciting yet mind-enriching experience, the newly opened National Museum of Natural History offers a fresh look at the country's heritage. Janice Cavett tells us more.
The National Museum of Natural History opened to the public on Friday, International Museum Day. National Museum of the Philippines Chairman Ramon del Rosario says the opening of the museum marks the completion of the conversion of the Department of Tourism building into a world-class museum facility. The heritage building, which is close to 90 years old, was retrofitted into a museum by virtue of the National Museum Act in 1998. The project was a collaboration between the government and the private sector, from the Ramos to the Duterte administrations. The specimens in the museum are new and have never been displayed before. One highlight of the museum is the replica of Lolong, the largest saltwater crocodile in captivity. Another is the Tree of Life, a glass and aluminum dome where visitors can enjoy a generous amount of natural light from a canopy-inspired ceiling. The globe showcases the Earth's biosphere and the effects of climate change in the environment. Beaches, forests, mangroves, and ocean life were also recreated in different galleries in the museum. Huge replicas of a manta ray, a whale shark, and a dolphin could be found at the Marine Life Gallery, while Philippine birds are on display at the Forest Life exhibit. Paintings of Philippine orchids and sketches of flowers and plants are framed and pinned to the gallery walls. Also in display are the tooth and forebones of the Rhinoceros philippinensis, which were analyzed and presented as proof of the earliest hominin activity in the country 709,000 years ago. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Let's take another look at today's top stories. House leaders urge President Duterte to certify the Bangsamoro Basic Law as urgent for passage. The Department of Education reactivates Oplan Balik Eskwela as classes start on June 4. Oil companies increase prices of fuel products by over 1 peso per liter. And the National Museum of Natural History rises from a 90-year-old heritage building to showcase the country's rich biodiversity. Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I'm Pia Rosas Morato. Good day.